Live from Southern California, Mark Flores presents Retro Collecting 101. And here is your host, Mark Flores. Thank you. I want to welcome you guys to another installment of Retro Collecting 101. Retro Collecting 101 is brought to you by Game Swappers. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade your retro games and next-gen consoles, Xbox One and PlayStation 4. You could come into contact with Game Swappers via Instagram at GAMESWAPPERS. That's at GAMESWAPPERS. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade. If you catch them right now on Instagram, you'll be able to get a early head start on the Zelda claim sale that he has. He's probably going to be about only a fourth of the way of his claim sale, just because I know for sure he has a lot of stuff. I was there yesterday. Today on today's show, we're going to be talking about two things. We're going to be talking about the art of haggling, and we're also going to be talking about 5 habits of retro game stores, bad retro game stores in particular. A lot of you have plenty of questions, like asking, is this retro game store, should I keep going to it? What's the telltale sign of a game store that I should be going to or I shouldn't be going to? And you know what? I have five telltale signs that will definitely help you out with that. But in the first segment, I want to tell you guys about the art of haggling. At the flea market and at the swap meets, we're dealt with this situation where we sometimes buy multiple items, or we sometimes want to lower the asking price of a certain game. To me, yeah, I always appreciated going out to yard sales and being able to make a deal with anybody. Usually in my area, there are a couple swap meets around that I can go to, and I'm able to get good deals because of the way I'm able to talk it down just to get a better deal. It's like this. It's if you're able to have the gift of gab for these multiple items or for this one item, then you have the first step already completed. The thing is that you need to have a couple things to make sure that you take your ability over the top. You need to make sure is that you got to make sure that they're okay with haggling. Usually if you try to break a deal with someone off the first couple seconds of a deal and they aren't really with it, then that's usually a good telltale sign that they're not going to be able to haggle at all with anything, like they have firm prices. But if you're able to see that these guys are actually consenting to the haggling, then that gives you a couple of signs right there. If the owner of the swap meet section that you're shopping in, if he consents, or he or she consents to the haggling, then that means that they'll entertain a lower price for the items that you're buying. So that kind of sets you in the right there, where now you know for sure that this price that was for the former is going to be a lot lower, because now they have consented to entertain this haggling situation now. I say that there's a couple of rules. You could be a very aggressive haggler, but don't misconstrue that with you being a very impolite or a very angry haggler if you don't really get the price that you want, which is the lowest possible. You don't want to get to be too low to the point where it's kind of being unfair to the person that is selling the item. But do not stop. I say during the haggling, I wouldn't stop till an agreement is made. You want to make sure that both sides are satisfied. That way, if you go back again, then that way you know that this guy is actually, or this person that's selling it is actually satisfied with you even coming back. because some people will not even deal with you if you know they've had bad experiences with you. And with the rights of businesses and swap meet places, they do have the right to reserve to sell to anybody. They just don't, you know, they can automatically say, I don't, you know, these aren't for sale for you. And it's not a fact of them being discriminatory, but it is their right for an establishment within the property to deny to refuse service. Do not become frustrated if he or she only budges a few dollars. You're still saving money nonetheless. I mean, if you look at a game that's worth $20 and you see it for 15 and you want to go 10, you're already, you know, if you go 10 and you want to do 5 after that, you're just kind of getting greedy at that point. You are not really helping out anybody because, you know, there's tons of other factors that come into play, like how much, where did she get this game from, or where did it come from? But you don't want to be cutting into the profit margin of the person that's established at the swap meet. Keep in mind that you know, these swap meet people are in a position where they're going to get a lot more money anyway, because all they do is just set up and park their car there and lay a mat down and put items on the floor. That's basically what a majority of them are at certain flea markets and swap meets. So how about, and then another thing I want to mention before we get into other things is, do not focus on finding a target lower price. Focus on yes. I'll get into that right now, but it is a lot harder for a salesman to say a lower price than it is to say the word yes. So what I mean by that is that during your negotiation, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're the one naming the price and then following up with like a yes or a no question, because it's a lot harder for people to say no to an actual numbered price than it is for people to actually say no to the actual yes or no question. A lot of people will be more keen to answer a yes or no question rather than an actual price. So that is what I want to specifically point out, is that you don't want to get to an actual price. How about you change it up and actually get to yes. Get to the fact that that when you're doing your negotiation, be the first to say, $12, yeah or no. What do you want to do? Is that good? Yeah. Or, you want to make sure to establish, after you say your price, you want to make sure to establish a yes or no question, because it's a lot easier for people in the sales world to actually say yes or to no than to an actual price. I've learned that after reading a couple books on actually on haggling and on sales books as well, because in the a long time ago I was actually doing retail and sales, so I was real keen on knowing how to maximize my haggling skills, if you will. And it actually played out really well, because now I'm able to educate people on it and just give little tidbits on it. You got to realize too is that the art of haggling, each side takes a position. One is going to start low, and the other, the merchant, is going to start off at a price that is the price that is said there. Like example, $5 for a PS3 controller. Now you, the other side, want to get it to about $2 to $3. You want to cut a little bit off of that. Their ideal price is whatever they want to do, but if you want to get to an ideal target, focus on that target, but make sure you follow it up with a yes or no question. If it is, and then one thing too to mention too, if it is the swap meet that you're at haggling, put grab a few games that you see. Say if it's a lot of games instead of just one that you're focused on, buy a few of the games and say, give me a deal for all three or all these games, and they would rather see a deal. They rather have a deal go for all the games and have them actually go than to have them stay out there and sit all day. Especially if they're not resellers. You'll be able to, like I mentioned before in episode 1 of Retrocollecting 101, is that you're able to discern whether or not these are resellers or they're actually just people selling, something that they found at a storage facility or somewhere else. But with what you have, when it comes to going to the swap meet, you're able to discern from that. But if you're not going to be able to get a deal with resellers, but you'll be able to get a deal with these guys that you can see that are actually organic organic salespeople where they're actually getting it from they're actually getting it from other places instead of buy, selling, trading retro games. You got to make sure that they have a bunch of other stuff too. That way you can capitalize on it. And just to reiterate is that you don't want to be an actual person who becomes an annoyance during the haggling. You can easily lose the deal if you start exuding frustration, and that frustration ends up going to be like it actually goes into like a choice of words that you don't it actually goes into a verbal exchange. You don't really want to do that. That's not what the swap meet's about. The swap meet's basically about trying to find deals, and I know it's harder nowadays, but you want to try to find as many deals as possible for a low price. But with you grabbing a bunch of items in bulk, you got to realize too is that you don't want to name each price. You don't want to have them name each price individually. You just want to grab a bunch of games and have this price being deducted from the whole lot. A lot of people would be rather and more willing to work out that kind of deal than actually going one game at a time. You don't want to have anything itemized beforehand, and then you pick up the games, and then you end up paying a lot more because there's no deal being had. You want to make sure to maximize your actual funds by, haggling a little bit, seeing if you could go any lower. Usually after the said price, after you get a deal on all these bulk items, you can probably see to shoot for about $5 or maybe $3 lower, but you're not getting anything more after that. It is really difficult, especially nowadays where some people are more educated or knowing that maybe they had games out there before and knowing how much some of them are worth. But yeah, in certain situations, haggling is definitely a necessity. Learning Spanish does help too sometimes, but this is just haggling with numbers and everything. A lot of saying numbers and stuff, that's basically a universal language. I mean, you'll be able to work with prices and stuff like that. It shouldn't be difficult. There shouldn't be any reason for people to be a little timid when it comes to haggling, because this place has no set price tag. The swap meet or the flea markets have no set price tag. This is pretty much a place that is open season for any good salesperson or any person that's able to be so manipulative to actually get a lower price. As long as just to stress out my key points, try to buy a lot of items and then get asked for the deal. Don't ask for a price on each individual thing, group them up all together, and then get your price. You don't want to do that. Itemize everything and ask for a deal after. Don't name prices at that point. Focus on getting a yes, not actually naming an actual figurative number. You actually, the steps that would be easier to remember is name your price and then ask a yes or a no. It'd be a lot easier for people to say yes to something than it is to actually saying a number back, because that's money that you're talking about. A yes or no question is a yes or no question at that point. And if they consent to haggling, if they're actually able to will and deal, they will entertain a lower price. They're not going to. No one likes to do haggling at a firm with firm prices. That no one wins in that situation. Only the person selling the item. But if they do consent to haggling, that's a telltale sign that they're willing to entertain the lower price, maybe the lower price that you want. And then don't stop till an agreement is made. Just make sure both sides are satisfied and end it with a firm handshake. That's the only thing I can tell you at the end of the day, that a lot of people do appreciate that old school trust value where a firm handshake can go a long way. It's positive reinforcement. It stems from all the way back where treaties and stuff were settled via handshake. So a lot of people do still enjoy a good handshake after a deal, and it's a good way to network after that. If in case they want to come in contact with you when they have more games in stock. So that's it. That's the only key points I can give to people when it comes to haggling for games. It's a lot harder than it used to be, I'll tell you that, just because a lot of people are more savvy with finding out what the prices are, with games. And sometimes you might find them slipping through the cracks where people just don't care and want to get rid of the stuff. But nowadays those are few far in between, and added to the fact that a lot of people are getting into retro gaming just because it's it's trending now. So a lot of things aren't in the favor for the actual game hunter like myself, which is why I don't do it that often anymore. Which is why I usually stick to retro game stores. Which perfectly segues into my next topic. I did a little survey within my social circle about what makes a bad retro video game store, and the people that I was asking were pretty savvy, and they all are retro collecting hunters and stuff like that. So they do frequent thrift stores, swap meets, and all this, but they also do frequent retro game stores. And I did ask them, and the main consensus that I got from all these guys is a couple of key points. I had bad customer service, overpriced items, lack of knowledge, lack of diverse selection, and the negative aura. And I'll get into that very last one at the end. But customer service is the most pivotal thing to either make or break a business. You could lose money with bad customer service. You can always gain customers with good customer service. You'll get there's a lot more things that will happen negative with bad customer service, but there's a lot better things with good customer service. You'll get a lot more things with good customer service because that will always stay embedded into the mind of someone that has a positive experience. A main key point to note is that if I for example have a bad experience in a place, and this is just general, I will be sure to let someone know that I had a bad experience there, and I'll be sure to tell everyone a long time from there that I had the bad experience. But when it comes to good customer service, I'm always very, very keen on letting people know where is a good place to go instead of that said place. But customer service in any business is very, very important to anyone running a business. To run a successful one, and it starts and ends with the customers. If you enter a retro video game store and you get a smug, pompous attitude from one of the people that are in there, that usually is the telltale sign whether you're going to have a good experience or a bad experience. That has no excuse, even if someone's having a very busy day. As soon as someone comes into any store, they should be greeted within the first 5 seconds of them coming into the store. It lets the person entering know that they are A, welcome, and that they are B, identified while entering the store. That's a good thing. A lot of people throughout all the jobs I've had have always been stressful on customer service, and I've always held that very high wherever place I go. It's just customer service is very pivotal. It's being very polite, because it can make or break any profit that comes into the store. If you feel like you have a smug attitude around the store, or if you don't get greeted, welcomely, then then that same energy and attitude is applied to every regard of that business. And that's no stretch of the imagination there. That is just pretty much a good telltale sign whether the business itself is rather just want your money, or they want your business, want your rapport, want everything to do with the aspect of business, which includes customer service, which includes them treating you with respect and giving you the customer service that everyone at any stage of life deserves. If the customer service isn't there, then there is nothing in there for you. I don't care how many games that they have, but bad customer service always translates, and it trickles down to every facet of the business. Bad customer service, can always, and I've seen it before at several stores where I would enter the store and I wouldn't get greeted. I would be in the middle of someone's conversation with, and I would have to interrupt them to get help on a game or something. After that point, it's either if the price is low enough for me to catch them slipping, or if I'm able to get a low price on a game, then I'm still in it. But with that, I mean, I'm never going to see that, because I already know if it's bad customer service, I can pretty much assume that most facets of the business is going to be bad, i.e. high prices. Everything in there's just a lot of tomfoolery being involved in there. Like I said, it's a trickle down effect that happens with bad customer service. It definitely is a telltale sign. Which goes on, speaking of prices, to my next topic. Overpriced items. We've seen it every which way. We've seen it at certain stores that are surprisingly still in business. Overpriced items on retro games are very, very bad for the retro community. It gives the impression of the person entering the store that is the valid value of that game, and if they ever find that game in the wild, they'll end up trying to sell it for that price because they saw in the video game store that is the going price, rather than seeing averages of how much this game goes for. You do not want to take one price of a game at one store as gospel, because you need to see how much the average is. That way you're A, getting a fair price to people, and B, you can assume how much trade value you can get for this game. If the average price on a game is well known, and the price of that same item is, that same game is $10 to $15 over the average price, the whole shop is probably going to be the same way. There's a certain retro game store I go to that I try to frequent to see if I can catch them slipping from time to time, and their prices are pretty outrageous for the confidentiality of that business, and I don't advertise bad businesses, so I won't even tell you what the name is. But I go in there and everything's overpriced. Everything's about $20 to $15 overpriced. That could lead everyone else to believe that game is worth that price, and it ruins the whole community from that place. However far that they advertise, it just does bad for business, and it does bad for everyone entering that store and coming out under the wrong impression. And then another thing to note too is if a person running a store is checking prices after they have it marked otherwise, they have to honor that price. If there's a sticker price on an item, and it's not it's not marked out or crossed out for a reprice, then the person selling that item has to honor that price. It's the law. If they try to dispute that, my piece of advice is to record the conversation and contact the Better Business Bureau. I think it is excessive. I think that what I said is excessive, but you need to take excessive measures to prevent stuff from this happening again. For people to have a price that is kind of the average price, and then to increase it set amount because they checked online and checked what the actual going rate plus $10 more is going for, then that's not fair to the consumer that found it at that price, which is pretty much the average price, and then they hike it up another $10 to $15. If they try to reprice it to you, let them know that, let them know what law they are, in violation of, and let them know that you're going to, let them know you're going to report the incident to the Better Business Bureau for investigation. That's going to stop it right there in their tracks, that they shouldn't be doing that anymore. Luckily, in the instances where that I've seen various games that they've had, and we're talking about the same store here, is that they've always had the prices crossed out. There's never been an instance where I've seen it where they've actually had a set price and then they readjust it to the current market value. A retail store isn't allowed to do that. They have those prices out there identified for you, so to prevent things like that, to prevent hike rates like that, because that is definitely a slippery slope into other topics, but you kind of get where I'm getting at, where, this price is for you, this is the price you're going to pay. And it's just not fair to anybody at that point in stage. And that is a second thing of a bad retro game store. And it kind of does stem from bad, if, like I said before, if the bad customer service is there, they're usually going to have these other signs there, and they all fall suit, because you'll see little by little that they aren't in it for the community. They're not in it for being a local business that is a little more inexpensive. They're in it for the bottom line. So yeah, they if you see that, just make sure to call them out on it. Or any shop in particular, because they need to have the prices set. They don't have them, it's not fair for someone to find a price there and then have them jump the price up very high like that. It's just not fair. It just kind of shows you that they do have a lack of knowledge for the item, and then they aren't keeping up business wise with inventory and pricing pricing when the store is closed or when it's not busy. That way they have time to change the prices. Another point I'd like to make, what really makes a bad retro game store is the lack of knowledge. If they don't know about the games, and I'm not saying they need to know about every game. There's games I don't know about, and there's games a lot of people don't know about. But I want to say, how about a vast majority of them, maybe all the common games. If they don't know about the games, then they just know about one thing, and that's the bottom line. That's financing. That's money. They care about money more than they care about the game. They'll just look it up and be like, hey, well, this is how much it's worth. I've never played it. I can't tell you it's good. It might be an expensive, bad game. So whatever, I'll just price it $10 to $15 higher, $10 to $15 higher than the average retail price. These two things really correlate with if you ask them if they have something specific, and they say, "Oh, I have it somewhere laying around," and they don't make an effort to find it, then that also tells me something is wrong. Is that they rather not find the item for you and make money than to they rather not look for the item for you. They rather just not do it at all and just have you, come back at a later time. To me, that does stand to bad customer service again. But if you ask for a certain item and they're like, "Oh, well, I have it somewhere laying around here," and they actually point to a specific area and they don't make an effort to find it, then what's the point of you actually going there? Because maybe several items, maybe there's several items that you want, and then they won't even look for them. That's just basically a way of denying you business, denying you, games that you might want. A lack of knowledge to me is definitely, it's definitely a telltale sign of a bad store. There's one instance where at this same store is where I found, I looked at one of their CIB's Legend of Zeldas, and I take the map out of this Legend of Zelda, and this is for the NES. And I look at the map and I'm like, this is the Link to the Past map. This is the map that's needed for the Super Nintendo. You have it in the wrong box, sir. He's all like, oh, really? Well, thanks for that. I'm all like, and then my reply to that was like, yeah, no problem. It's what I know. And it's what everyone kind of, with general idea of what the Legend of Zelda is, or with any game, they should honestly know that it's definitely something specific, but it's just a lack of knowledge on some games is just, it's kind of inexcusable, because you kind of see that their passion isn't for the games themselves, but their passion is mainly for the bottom line, which is the money. You're able to see whether someone enjoys what they're doing or they don't, and they're in it for other reasons. You can see whether or not, if you pick out a game, oh, have you played this game? What's that like? And they're really enthused and they actually know about the game. That really helps you entrust that the game is fun, and it helps you entrust into the business itself. If I ask, oh, what's this game about? Yeah, I played it. It's, I haven't, or they say that they haven't played it, and like, oh, well, it looks cool. General assumptions like that don't really bode well with me. And it's to the point sometimes where I have to look up gameplay at this certain store, because I know the fact that they don't really know anything about these games. So a lack of knowledge to me on most games, if you don't know what you're selling, then that just kind of tells me that they're in it for other reasons. It's just how is a guy, for example, let's take it out of video games. How is a guy that sells vacuums door to door won't know anything about the vacuum, but but trust me, the vacuum's a really good vacuum. That's not going to close you out on sales. It's not going to have you trust the salesman, because obviously you know that the salesman doesn't know anything. It doesn't know anything about the item that you want. So when it comes to video games, you need to have someone that actually knows this stuff or actually plays video games. That way you can actually get a perspective on whether the game is good or not. Because nowadays there's a lot of games out there where you'll pick out a game like, oh, okay, this game looks cool. You have to go on the cover art, or you just look at the gameplay via YouTube. But if you have the gameplay via YouTube and then you have someone actually attest to this game actually being good, then that should reinforce you to actually thinking that you have a good experience, and that could garner a sale. But on the other side, if you don't have that, then it goes to show you that these guys really aren't, really could care less what you do. They'll probably find someone to buy the game, but to the well-educated people on this stuff, it's just kind of you kind of need to know the business that you're in, plain and simple. Another point I wanted to get, speaking of selections and games and stuff, another telltale sign of a bad retro game store is the lack of diverse selection. With that, I want to tell you that you need to find your specialty store. What are you into? Are you into collecting SNES? Are you into collecting NES? Are you looking to collect complete in box or just loose? There's tons of questions. So by you answering these questions, you need to find your specialty store. Like what store is going to have these games? I use one store to find common PS2 games on the cheap, and then I go to another one to find games from different consoles. If there's zero selection, you got to find the good within that store. And if there's no good in that store and by find the good, I mean, look within the store, see if you can find a niche of things that you like to collect. And if you don't, then the store's not for you, and you're just wasting your own time, because maybe you don't collect SNES stuff, but all they do is specify in a bunch of loose regular Nintendo games. If there's nothing in there for you, then there's never if they don't match your specialty of what you want to get, then there's no use of you even being there. You can go somewhere else to find all that. I tell people too to stick to your if you find a good selection of games at a said store, you stick to your low price home store and always shop there to become a regular. After a while, you may get deals from time to time, and then consistency pays off. I could tell you a little story of how I came into contact with Game Swappers, and I was in the neighborhood around their Montclair store, and I just went in there and I just wanted to shop for games, and I found a couple games, and then I came back, and little by little, I became, I knew the owner really well. So well, in fact, that, sometimes I do take in my trades in there from time to time, and, I have a good rapport like that. I don't have any good rapport anywhere else because the customer service wasn't there. The lack of knowledge wasn't there. The good customer service wasn't there. It's just all these telltale signs led me over to other places looking for what I needed to find. And good customer service to me is very pivotal. I mean, especially at that especially at that Game Swappers, because it is a very compact store. It's a very intimate experience because you don't have a lot of room in there to see all the games and stuff. But like you said, I've gotten a lot of good deals there just because I know I go in there and wheel and deal and trade, and we just talk about games and stuff. So find your specialty store. Find a store that you're going to be doing most of your transactions in, and see and find a store that you're going to excel at with your hobby at. And after a long time, you'll be able to get better deals along the way. just because they know that you're going to be coming back from time to time again whenever you need some stuff. And consistency does pay off. That's why I gotta tell people. I mean, at the end of the day, if it's a lack of diverse selection to the hobby that pertains to you, then you don't really need to be at that store. But just to reiterate, I mean, a lot of people will know the telltale signs now, but I want to actually, before I do an overview, I want to get to the fifth one. I'm a very keen believer in feeling out people's attitudes and energies and stuff. And I've been really able to see whether or not they're actually good peoples or not. And if you ever go into a store, you're greeted correctly. They have a good selection. They have this and that. All the good signs are there. They're probably missing a few things. But if you kind of feel that these guys or these whoever's running the store, if you kind of feel that they're not right, if their attitude or their energy to you isn't well, then that is your brain's telltale sign that this place is rather suspect to you. Other people may have good experiences here or there, but to you, that's not a good place for you to be at. After that, you don't really have to be there. I can give you a good example. After I dealt with the store that I've been talking about as an example, but I still keep them confidential. After they dealt with a customer, that left, and I'm in there still looking for games, they brought me into the conversation of how we fucking just scammed this guy. We just, what they did was he brought in a lot of rare NES games and a lot of stuff for trade. This guy was extremely uneducated in his lot that he had because he had a lot of good games, and they basically gave him a quarter of what the actual good trade value would have been, and he took it. And he walked out, and this guy's like, oh man, he would talk to the other owner, and he's like, you wouldn't fucking believe what I just did, all swearing and this and that. And I'm still a customer in the store, mind you. So like, you wouldn't believe what I fucking did to this guy. Now these games I could resell for this and that. It's just like, he was basically telling openly about how he fucked some guy in a deal in front of a customer. So you buy your items, what do you think they're going to say about you, or about you when you leave? It's just, if you can read that while you're in the store, even without reading how they, how your attitude and how they feel like to you, like energy wise and their attitude, then that is just a big red flag, because it's just to insult somebody but after they leave to someone else that they don't know. It's very, very uncomfortable, and it's very embarrassing, because they are just out there blatantly trying to boast their ego about it to other people. So that's what I want to tell you, is that check the aura of that whole place, and if it's not cool, it's not kosher, then you know what, you gotta head out, because if they're gonna be talking smack about someone after they leave in front of a customer, not just someone that they know, not such a friend, but another customer, another patron, another person in that store, it was mind-boggling. And I'm sorry to emit so much frustration about this, but it just happened, and I just, like I said, the only time I go back to that store, I feel like I can catch them slipping. I've caught them slipping before, and I like going back to see if I can. Anyway, and I only go back to that store. I know it's kind of contradictory, but to have them caught slipping is nothing but poetic justice to me, because these guys do deserve that. they're that. They sink under my skin as much as that. But anyway, I want to get into my $5 game of the week. That's Excite Bike. A lot of people don't know much about it, but like I said, they do know much about it. Excuse me. It's a very common game, but if you are an avid collector of the NES, or if you want to get a game for your NES that you want to fire up after a long time and you don't want to spend that much money but still have a lot of fun, I recommend you Excite Bike. Excite Bike is a very good game. It's one of the black box NES games. It involves motorcycles and motocross. you get to customize your courses. You get to race at night or day. The soundtrack's cool. For the gameplay, I personally think that this game should be worth a lot more. But to have it so many copies and so common of a game, I think that it is really good that it's. I think it's really excellent that it's only $5 still, which is good. I recommend it to anyone that's starting their collection. A must-have for the NES library, in my opinion. Still inexpensive, and it's definitely fun because you get to customize your track and have your friend go at it. Have your friend go at it right after you customize it. But just make sure to keep the customizing fun. I've seen a lot of people screw over people about this, just screw them over like when they play the game and they put a lot of bumps in it and stuff, and it's funny to see. But I just wanted to get into that real quick. But let me go. I'm coming to the conclusion of the show, and I usually want to do a my final thought. I kind of think that this is good for Retro Collecting 101 because it leaves you guys on a keynote before I head out live here about 5:14 p.m. My final thought here is this: retro game stores in particular are a catalyst for either helping or hurting the retro community. You as a retro store, you can either be an ally or you can be the enemy of several people by your customer service, your lack of diverse selection, your bad aura, your price hikes. You can be the ally or the enemy of several people that way. Cutting from the profits of your bottom line to have a revolving door of customers is good, and it's long business, especially with retro gaming coming at a point where it's getting to a point where it's getting a little expensive. Then my other final thought goes out to thrift stores. To thrift stores charging abnormally high prices for video games that are donated to them, there's a very special place for you in my heart, a very negative special place. All your money is profit. Every single thing people donate to you is all profit. You are doing nothing but hurting the retro community by being the last bastion of hope for cheap games. The way it goes with thrift stores is this. You got to think about it at its core, and I don't recommend anyone to go into a place and actually tell people this, but of a thrift store that does nothing as far as like for the community, for this and that, for anything helping the community itself, they are nothing more than a place that has lights on and has an empty room, and they have people giving them donations. These donations are all free. There is nothing costing them to get these items that they resell. If it even goes to the fact of Goodwill. I've seen plenty of Goodwills that try to sell things at retail price, but I'm like, you're Goodwill, bro. Like, you emulate this image of being a place that is actually for the people, but yet you get these items you get these video games that are supposed to be a set price, usually about $3.99 or $4.99, and you get them and you try to resell them for $29. Like, where do you get off doing that by adding a couple more dollars in your pocket and selling more? When you get this stuff all the time, you are going to have this. You're going to have a fan base of people that donate to you because the said phrase to people is like, yeah, I'll just go to Goodwill and donate this stuff. To even thrift stores that don't have an actual like community service program where they actually have people help them out, or where they have things that a certain percentage of them goes to like a kid's hospital or kids, anything related to helping out the unfortunate. Those guys need to like have a set price on some things so people can actually capitalize after they buy it. It's just not fair for a business like that to emulate such an image, and this is regards to Goodwill, to emulate an image where it's supposed to be a positive experience, or like you're helping out everyone by the proceeds of your sales go to this, but to have the price up like that really upsets me, and it should upset you to the point where you don't really go to Goodwill often, or you only go into Goodwill to catch them slipping. That's the only reason I go to Goodwill nowadays. I really have my 2 cents to say about them, but there's still a few Goodwills out there that I can go and know that I can probably find a good price on some rare games. So those are just my final thoughts. I want to let you guys know that this show, the Retro Collecting 101, is brought to you by Game Swappers. Game Swappers, buy, sell, and trade your retro games and next-gen consoles. That's PS4 and Xbox One. You could come into contact with Game Swappers via Instagram at GAMESWAPPERS. That's GAMESWAPPERS. That spells Game Swappers. Game Swappers. Buy, sell, and trade. All right, guys, I want to let you guys know that I'm going to have Mark and Andre's show later tonight. The time of the show is going to be determined later, but it will be a show later on tonight with the Mark and Andre show. So have a good safe night. Keep the retro collecting strong. Keep on, and make sure to find those places that that aren't really good for the retro community. Make sure you catch them slipping. Have a good night.